We're back again, episode 2, season 2 of the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. Yes, we're here 2 times in 1 week. NFL means more to talk about, more betting action. So I'll try to give you more in the next few months that I can possibly give you my all, give you my heart, my soul, and you know what, give me my bankroll too. Not really, it's probably going to get given to FanDuel. They'll take all my bankroll, but welcome back again. If you missed episode 1 of season 2, it's still out there. It's only a few days old. We talked about the spreads upcoming in the NFL this weekend for week 1. This episode is going to focus on some of the over-unders and some of the props, either team props, game props, scoring props, or player props, mostly player props. And we're going to get into that. And I'll warn you, for the over-unders, the whole genesis of the name Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast is my reputation as I love a good bet that's an over. I tend not to bet the under. I hate watching a game that I'm looking for an under, and that tells you, a pro would never look at it that way. I'm obviously a square, so if you've never joined the podcast before, we talk about every sport in the we think is deemed necessary to talk about the biggest news in sports. But right now it's NFL season. The NFL is kicked off tonight, 8:20 p.m. Note to other sports, when a league says that the kickoff is 8:20. The anthem's done. The ceremonies are done. Kickoff is happening at 8:20, not 8:32, not 8:42. And that's a shout out to the NHL, MLB, and NBA. Start your games on time based on what you told us the game is going to start at. So that's a pet peeve of mine. Not with the NFL, though. Lions, Chiefs, kicked off. We're here in the third quarter. Actually make that start of the fourth quarter. The Kansas City Chiefs have the ball up 17-14. I had a feeling it might go this way. If you listen to episode 49 of season 1, the thought was the Lions would hang in this game, and they have, and they've played well. They've played okay. I mean, they've had moments. Their secondaries look great, but it's Patrick Mahomes. They're going to crack. And they got to play perfect football. And right now the Chiefs are charging, looking to put more points on the board. Jared Goff, average quarterback. He's had some decent throws, but you can tell he's had nothing beyond 30 yards of a completion, no big, huge plays. So we'll see what the fourth quarter brings, but I expected this outcome. And looking at the bets I've had in this game so far, some of the props include, on the previous podcast, I mentioned that the 5.5 still looked good to me, and that was pre-Travis Kelce being injured, but I had suggested that I would still stick to the 5.5 because I was confident that Patrick Mahomes was the true difference maker here. However, I got the line at 3.5 bonus, and I still feel confident, even though the Chiefs are up by 3 right now, but they're charging. They're going in. We'll see what happens. I did go pretty heavy on the Lions props, actually. Jared Goff to throw an interception, which is good because he's going to be forced to throw the ball, and we'll see what happens there. Also, St. Brown, I got him at total yards and longest reception. I think he's going to hit that total yards, but the longest reception, not too sure. Patrick Mahomes passing yards, he's less than 100, but if you're up by multiple scores, there might be less and less likely he might put the ball in the air in the fourth quarter. And also, I did lose. I was close. I did try to, I sprinkled some money on the Lions to the race to 15 points. It was 14-14 for a while, and they did have opportunities, did let me down. So that was when I know that it's in the loss column. So as we go into this week and we go the second episode here, I'm going to warn you, like I said, we're going to talk about overs. I'm going to talk about 4 or 5 games that I believe are a good chance and that I'd be placing money on the over. So when I say over-unders, I really mean we're going full commando here, and that means no undies, no unders. So full commando from this guy, and I'll give you those picks in a minute. And also the player props is exciting, but it's one of those situations where you really got to bank on and look at who's injured, who's starting. A lot of fantasy podcasts out there do a great job of identifying matchup issues and who quarterbacks may feed, or a team may decide to rush or run the ball versus throw the ball, or just the fantasy football could absolutely help with sports betting. So, keep a note of that, especially for props. And I'm also using, I'm not sponsored, maybe I should be, by BetStamp. BetStamp is an app that you can download, and you can actually find the multiple players in your local area. So for me in Ontario, it's giving me all the online sports books that are available that I could sign up for legally. And it compares all the spreads, and including player props, and especially props. There's a lot of varying lines out there. So shop around. Don't get stuck into one. Right now, I am right on FanDuel as I lead into week 1. I have not expanded. I'm thinking DraftKings, Bet365 is a good option out there for everybody, especially props. They are masters on offering so many team props. One of the popular ones that I see out there is like if you really want to take a chance on a big plus value, games a lot. Every game has a line for a successful 2-point conversion. They have passing yards, individual passing yards, milestones, field goal props. If you love field goals, I know Johnny Charts, our soccer specialist, loves the field goals, and he talked about leading into this season looking at some of those field goal props. And Bet365 definitely gives you the props that you want compared to every other ones that I've seen at least. So take that for what it's worth. Check it out. See if it's for you, and sign up if that's the case. But we're going to kick it off with some over-unders here as I'm watching Detroit get the ball back. The Kansas City Chiefs looking to move the lead up to 20-14. Buckner looking to kick a field goal as we have the dramatic pause. Wind a little going left, right, and bam, and it is good. We got a 20-14 ball game, and I'm hoping I won't get screwed on the spread there because they couldn't cash it in. But we'll see how it plays out. So for over-unders, here we go. Season 2, Episode 2, second episode within 48 hours. How lucky are you? Pleasure's all yours, as I always say. So here we go. And remember to follow us on Twitter, Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. Almost sound like somebody from Boston, podcast. But Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. Also on Instagram, an Overrated Experience, and Facebook, Overrated Experience. All three can be found at the bottom of your podcast provider. The links are there. Please join us. Join the community. Come on over. Get it? Overrated. Come on over. Yeah, that's the kind of humor we have here. And we have the first matchup for the Overrated Experience as I dramatically pause as I get to the right page where I made my notes. Please hold. Please hold. This is exciting podcasting when somebody's turning their page to try to get to their notes. Okay. First game on the board. Actually a game, you might step outside of the red zone to watch in full. And that is San Francisco, Pittsburgh. I absolutely think we have a great shot of hitting the over on this game. FanDuel line sits at 41.5 with the juice at minus 110. If you look at some of the other sportsbook, this is important to shop around. So I'm just quickly glancing and look at it. I'm going to keep 4 books to kind of identify, but I'm going to use the FanDuel line because that's the sportsbook I'm using. But just for note, the line right now, as I checked it last night, currently on FanDuel, 41.5 for FanDuel over-under in this game. Sports Interaction had 41 at minus 110. Also Bet365 had 41, and DraftKings had 41.5, just like FanDuel at minus 110. If you deposit multiple sports books, then you get the option to take the best line. Obviously, I would take 41 if it was offered, but right now, if I have the single sports book, which I do, FanDuel is offering 41.5, which I still do think is value. I do see, some touchdowns being scored here. I don't think Pittsburgh's ready to take that next leap. I think they'll have a good start to the season. I think they'll put some points on the board. Kenny Pickett will make advancements. They got a lot of weapons on offense. Freiermuth, the tight end, is a good value play there. He tends to be a target for Kenny Pickett. They'll put up a couple points, but then you look at on the other side of the ball, the weapons that Brock Purdy has, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. There's going to be some potential turnovers, and I don't think it'll be that tough. I don't think I'll be sweating that much to be over 41.5. But I do like that. I think there's value there with a lot of the rest of the over-unders being, up there. So I think that's undervalued, and I think money should be laid on the over in the San Francisco-Pittsburgh game. And moving on, Tennessee takes on the New Orleans Saints. They visit the big, what's the nickname for New Orleans? The Big Easy? I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Anyway, New Orleans right now, Derek Carr, new quarterback. Defense is lights out. Michael Thomas, Olav, is that I can't remember how to pronounce that correctly, but he's got weapons. They're in a dome. There's usually, in New Orleans at the start of the year, there's usually a track meet that goes on. And I got to believe that Tennessee will even put up some points. Tannehill, Derrick Henry, something's going to happen. And, for a line to be 41.5 here as well, in a dome, at home in New Orleans, I think we're getting value here. I think we're getting a line that reflects, the New Orleans Saints offense last year, and I think it's going to change. I think Derek Carr is a big improvement, and they just need a solid quarterback there. So again, 41.5 on FanDuel, and then you have 42 on Sports Interaction, which again, opposite flip-flop on the value in the San Fran-Pittsburgh game. So if I had two accounts, one Interaction and one FanDuel, my one wager would be on Sports Interaction versus the Tennessee game, which I'll aim for FanDuel. So that's the interesting line that I seen there. 41 and 41, both on Bet365 and DraftKings. So interesting. Will I be watching that game? Probably not. Will I follow it? Yeah, probably will. What app do you guys use? Shut that out on Facebook, Instagram, and or our Twitter account. Any recommendations? I use the Score app. Bet365, to be honest, gives you the latest scores, which is fantastic. But maybe you got something better out there and you want to share with us. All right. So next game, interesting matchup. Las Vegas takes on the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos absolutely sucked last year. I walked into the fantasy season last year, 2022, thinking, was it 2023 or 20? Okay, whatever, 22. Yeah, 22. Thinking Russell Wilson moving from Seattle is going to have a huge year, MVP type year. That new move, and a dramatic pause. You think that worked out? No, it didn't. He was absolute trash. It was a mess. Coaching staff was terrible. Now they got Sean Payton in there. I expect, the good foundation being laid. And all Russell Wilson has to do is get the ball in the hands of his weapons. And let's hope he does that. But Las Vegas and Denver, division rival. Over-under is 44. I was hemming and hawing. But I expect a lot of fireworks in this game. Josh Jacobs back. He'll get the rock a lot. All four books are 44 for FanDuel, SI, Bet365, and DK. And although I don't have much faith in the Raiders, I do have faith that a divisional matchup like this, Jimmy G, who I do expect at some point early in the season, if not in this game one, somehow to come up limping one way or another, just like he always does or always did with the San Francisco 49ers. So if he stays in there long enough, he does have enough weapons early on in the season to at least put up 17 to 20 points, but I expect the Broncos to put up high 20s and maybe 30. So I expect things to happen in this game. Over 44, mark it down. All right, two other plays to go to keep you entertained, to keep you going, to keep you moving here for over and unders. And remember, no unders, no undies here, all Commando. So we have Miami, San Diego. This might be the best matchup at the 4 o'clock hour. Amazing talent on both sides of the ball here for both teams. I do think 50.5 is not too high for this group. You have such explosive players. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, a lot going on. Tua, if he stays healthy, will put the ball downfield. It's Dome Stadium, great no weather's not an issue. Justin Herbert, a lot of weapons there. This will be back and forth. I do not see any issue hitting that 50.5. FanDuel has a 50.5, 51 for SI, 51 for Bet365, and DK also has 51. So FanDuel leading the way on the value play here for the over-under. Update, the Detroit Lions actually have gone ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs live here on the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. They lead the Kansas City Chiefs with roughly 7 to 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, 21-20. And lucky me, I have Jared Goff over 33 yards, 35.5 yards as longest pass, and he just made a pass with 33 and just can't get there. Like St. Brown as well, 23.5 yards, and he only had as long as 21 so far. So just close, but not getting there. Not good. Not looking good so far. We'll see what happens because I do have Patrick Mahomes passing yards, which I guess I'm excited that they're down because I need 284.5. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, let's snap back into it here. Over-unders. Next game, final game for overs. The Buffalo Bills travel to the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. Aaron Rodgers, regular season debut for the New York Jets, taking on the Buffalo Bills. I talked about the Jets probably, hanging in this game on Monday night. Like, there's no reason why they can't if Aaron Rodgers plays anything like Aaron Rodgers can. And obviously Robert Saleh's known for his defense, and the Bills did lose last year without Aaron Rodgers on the Jets, and the defense really smothered Josh Allen. But I'm going to bank on Monday night, 46.5, prime time, two quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers going toe-to-toe, 46.5. I like it. And speaking of quarterbacks, today, Joe Burrow just got paid. Paid. Highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Well, currently, because that can change at any point. So he has received a contract of $275 million over 5 years, $219 million guaranteed. First of all, I don't even know why. Lamar Jackson went through this, or the rumor was he was waiting for a Deshaun Watson guaranteed contract because he's the only quarterback that has one. And I'm not sure why Joe Burrow would not have the leverage, just like Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have the leverage, just like Josh Allen would not have the leverage to say, I'm not signing unless it's guaranteed. So I don't know why that momentum was stopped when Lamar Jackson went down that road. And Lamar Jackson settled for a contract, big, huge contract that also included guaranteed versus potential maximized money. So just don't get it. I don't get why they didn't take a stand. But it's not like they're not going to get paid. So it's going to be a payday for Joey B. All right, now we go on to the player props, and got a lot of props here. I guess I got a lot of props like anybody else would be betting on week 1 in the NFL, so bear with me. I'll probably cut these down as time goes on, as realistically you probably want to hone in on, a handful versus 2 handfuls. So I'm going to kick it off in the Carolina Atlantic. Oh, sorry, I'm pissed off. This afternoon, when you're looking at FanDuel, lacking the number of player props that other sites are providing, it's just I'm not seeing the value here. Where Bet365 is an example, usually, say you're pretty bang on that if you're going to find a prop in one of the marquee games for an individual type bet, you're going to see it in a lesser bet, the Atlanta Carolina game. And the lack of props is a red flag to me. I'm not too sure why that's the case, but I really got to think FanDuel should step up their game in that side of things. But that really, really burned my chaps. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but not good. But going on, so the props I'm going to be using are based on Bet365. So the over-unders were FanDuel that I'll be betting. Bet365 is the props I'll be listing and going through and advising and telling you where my head's at on what to take. Now, the Carolina-Atlanta game, which I don't see anybody desiring to watch unless you don't live in Carolina or Atlanta. The interesting prop here in my mind is Bijan Robinson, rookie running back, over rushing yards, 88.5 yards rushing. So I think when a team goes out in the first round, decides to draft a running back with that first round pick, the idea is to run that person into the ground while they are on a rookie contract. Ask Saquon Barkley, ask Josh Jacobs, ask any running back who has hit free agency and seen where the market's at. Because I'll tell you right now, it's the running back, key position, but money-wise, it's dropping like a stone. It's so I expect Atlanta's plan here is to maximize those 5 years that they have with Bijan Robinson, and it's going to start on Sunday. I have no reason to believe why it wouldn't start on Sunday. Watch out. Bijan Robinson over 88.5 yards rushing, and I just want to make sure I got that right. I'll make sure it's not receiving and player rushing and receiving yards. 1 second. Sorry, that is actually the receiving and rushing yards. So I put rushing, but it's actually receiving and rushing yards, 88.5, minus 115, and pass. Passing and rushing. Make a note of that. So that's the only prop that I can see there that's worth taking in that game. Cincinnati-Cleveland, as we're talking about Joe Burrow, they take on the Cleveland Browns, and a few props from this game. I do like the passing yards combined from Joe Burrow and Deshaun Watson to go over 522.5 minus 115. I do think Deshaun Watson's going to be the more of a real Deshaun Watson than we've seen last year, and Joey Burrow obviously puts up numbers, and he's the man. So I like that over 522.5 passing yards. And I do like Amari Cooper, receiver, Cleveland Browns, receiving yards over 58.5. He's always clutch. He's not the fastest guy, but he's the guy when you're following a game. He's the guy with the big catch, fourth quarter. He'll have big chunk yard plays. 58.5, I think, is too low. Now, moving on to the San Francisco-Pittsburgh game, and I do like Christian McCaffrey, number one fantasy player out there when he's healthy, to be over 97.5 yards when it comes to pass plus rush, and that's at minus 115. You can tell me that Brock Purdy's not going to dump the ball off many times, and Christian McCaffrey's not going to be the go-to guy. Come on, he's a game breaker. If he's healthy, there's not anything he can't do. So 97.5 yards, he might hit $130, $140 as far as total yards. Okay, moving on now to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the Minnesota Vikings. Now, a go-to, and you got to rely on some of the big dogs out here, is Justin Jefferson, receiving yards over 87.5 at minus 110. Many, many times, I don't have the number in front of me, that Justin Jefferson was well north of 100 yards receiving last year. That does not change this year. He's the main target, the main guy. Tampa Bay is a shadow of what they were during their Super Bowl years. So watch out, Justin Jefferson, to light it up on Sunday. Tennessee, New Orleans. I'm going to say, I'd mentioned earlier that Derek Carr is going to, I think, make an immediate impact. And his over-under for passing yards is 244.5. minus 110. So good for, we're going to take that. Derek Carr over. And that's it from that game. Now, a big game. Green Bay, who owns the Chicago Bears. Well, they did when it was Aaron Rodgers' show. So Jordan Love now, the starting quarterback for the Packers, visiting the Bears. I do believe that there are no player props I would take in this game. I can see each team moving the ball down the field. I'm skeptical if they can get it into the end zone. So that's why I like, and I see value at plus 145 to at least have 4 field goals in this game. So Bears, Packers, 4 field goals at plus 145. All right. Jacksonville, Indy. Here's a value play. Doug Peterson likes to go for 2. And I'm sitting here looking at a line here at successful 2-point conversion plus 330. And the odds are he's going to go for it. If they hit it, great, you get paid out. If he doesn't, it messes up the scoring and puts the odds way up that there'll be more attempts as the game goes on by either team to go for 2 once again. So plus 330, successful 2-point conversion, Jacksonville, Indy. Like it a lot. Back to the Miami game, heading into Los Angeles against the Chargers. Tyreek Hill is an explosive player, and usually he had 100 yards plus by halftime. Would that change this year? 86.5 yards, too low. So take the over on that. Philadelphia, New England. I don't know what New England's going to bring to the table. So I like Jalen Hurts in this one. Pass plus rush at 286.5. You know, he's got it's an option offense where he can take off and run. He can light it up. He's got, Devonta Smith and, Brown out there as receivers. He's got a lot of weapons. So got to see Jaylen Brown light it up. Dallas, New York. Daniel Jones. If you've ever seen a game with the New York Giants, Daniel Jones runs like he's just heard a fire alarm and he takes off. He does not look athletic. I know he's doing it on purpose. I know it's part of his repertoire, but he looks absolutely horrible when he takes off out of the pocket. And I think it's insulting for a line to be only 33.5, especially with the pressure the Dallas D will put on him. And 33.5 is way too low. Daniel Jones will run like his ass is on fire. So there's value there for sure. Last, and maybe least, I don't know. I like the Bills and Jets. I like the passing for Aaron Rodgers to be over 234.5. He's too many weapons. I think he's motivated this year. I think he wants to put up big numbers on Monday night. So look for a 234.5 over. And also in that same game, Stephon Diggs over 67.5, minus 110. He's the main guy for Josh Allen. He came into training camp, obviously holding out for optional, not training camp, but some of their off-season workouts, and had a kerfuffle about not being used enough and all this sort of stuff. So they want to keep him happy and be a part of the playbook right away. 67.5 yards. That can be taken care of on 3 plays, if not 2. So those are your Commando, no undies, over-unders, and also props, player props, team props, scoring props. And I just watched that the Detroit Lions knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs 21-20. And I look back at this game, and Tony, receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, may have had one of the worst games in primetime football in the last 10 years. Absolutely. He's going to have Mahomes charged with a pick 6 where it was right through his hands. Perfect pass. Several balls dropped later in the game by Tony. He's going to feel the heat. He's going to feel the heat. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know if they'd be overreacting by cutting him tonight. I have no idea. But he had a horrible game. Kelsey was absolutely missed. Big plays that the Lions made at the end. When you watch the end of this game, it was as if the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and again, Mahomes didn't play bad at all. The weapons and the situational plays were like a Lions script. And the Lions came up, Dan Campbell, hard not to like the guy. He's a coach. They take a big win, and the hype train is on fire for the Detroit Lions. I really thought the Chiefs would take them. Now, we just went through an episode where I gave you prop picks. But sometimes I have to display my disgust for some of the bad beats that you get. And you know what? I'm not going to be perfect. I just got to have to share this because you've probably had a stretch like this. This Kansas City-Detroit game, I'm going to go through my plays in this game. Okay, and I'll tell you how it worked out. Because I'm on St. Brown, over 75.5 yards receiving. I'm on St. Brown. What did he finish with? Well, guess what? he finished with 71 yards of receiving. Okay? Detroit Lions raced to 15. Threw that as like a, told you, lost that. But could have, got that. Field goal away, should have had it. I would expect if I didn't get the 15 for Detroit would have lost. But they didn't. They win, of course. Jared Goff, longest pass over 35.5 yards. Jared Goff, longest pass, actual 33 yards. Loss. Patrick Mahomes, over 284.5 yards. Passing. Patrick Mahomes finishes with 226 yards passing. Patrick Mahomes in a losing scenario finishes with 226 yards. Who would see that coming? Kansas City Chiefs again, -3.5. 0 for 7 for this game. Not good. Not good. Well, this is why this is part of the community where we feel each other's pain. I hope you did well. I hope you will do well. And again, join the community. Keep listening. And I shout out to everybody who's been listening week over week. Keep coming back to see my journey. But this journey didn't start off good here on Thursday night. But, like I always say, the pleasure was all yours here in episode 2, season 2 of the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. It's time to go. Good night. Talk to you early next week for week 2. Good luck. And I pray for your success. Bye-bye.